Recording in progress.
August 3rd, 2022. The time is 6:33. The first thing on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. If everybody please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And the third item on the agenda tonight is the motion approval of tonight's meeting agenda. Somebody like to make a motion?
This is Chris. Motion to approve the amended Planning Commission agenda dated 8/3/2022.
Anybody second it?
This is Barb. I'll second that.
Why don't you put your mic down by there, Barb? Thank you. Barb, second it. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a vote.
Chris, aye.
Ron, aye.
Barb, aye.
Bob, aye.
Motion passes. Item number 4 on the agenda is a motion approval of July 20, 2022 Planning Commission meeting minutes.
This is Barb Bobick. Motion to approve.
This is Bob, I'll second.
We have it second. Any discussion, any questions? Hearing none, we'll take a vote.
Chris, aye.
Ron, aye.
Barb, aye.
Bob, aye.
Item number 5 on the agenda is a motion approval of July 20th, 2022 public hearing minutes for park construction conditional use permit, parentheses Jeff Carlson. Ella would like to make a correction in the minutes here.
The correction is just that on page 10, I wrote sandstone. The company is Semstone. That's the only change from the minutes that I sent out, though.
Thank you, Ella. Anybody like to make a motion to approve this?
This is Chris. I'll make a motion to approve it with the correction on page 10 from sandstone to semstone.
This is Barb. I'll second the motion.
Okay, any discussion, any questions? Hearing none, we'll take a vote.
Chris, aye.
Ron, aye.
Barb, aye.
Bob, aye.
The motion passes. We're going to item number 6 on the agenda, a motion approval of July 20th, 2022 public hearing minutes for 9056 Broadway Avenue Northeast Kennel interim use permit, Glenn and Sue Koth.
This is Bob, I move to approve.
This is Chris. I'll second.
Anybody have any questions or comments? Hearing
Chris,
none,
aye.
we'll take a vote.
Jump the gun. Chris, aye.
Ron, aye.
Barb, aye.
Bob, aye.
We're going to go on to item number 7 tonight. It's a public hearing and discussion. St. Clair Lakes Planned Unit Development Conditional Use Permit Amendment, pages 1 through 69, and enclosure B. Ella, would you read the notice?
Notice is hereby given that a public hearing will be held at the City of Columbus Planning Commission on Wednesday, August 3rd, 2022, at 6:30 p.m. or as soon thereafter as parties may be heard. The hearing will be conducted in person and by interactive technology at the Columbus City Hall, located at 16319 Kettle River Boulevard, Columbus, Minnesota, to consider a request for a conditional use permit amendment for a planned unit development to reduce the setback from garage to curb from 30 feet to 25 feet for a 21-lot subdivision, St. Clair Lakes, in the mixed-use medium-density district. Members of the public interested in attending in person, monitoring the meetings, or want more information should contact the city offices at 651-464-3120 or visit the city website at columbusmn.us. The hearing shall continue until all evidence and testimony has been received. Applicant is Joshua/Markham Builders, Inc. Property owner, Joshua/Markham Builders, Inc. Property location is 9100 block of Lake Drive Northeast, Columbus, Minnesota. Legal description as written. Signed, Elizabeth Mersko, zoning administrator. Public notice submitted to the Forest Lake Times on 7/14/22, published and posted in the Forest Lakes Times on 7/21/22.
Thank you, Ella. At this time, for the record, would Markham J. Olson, the applicant representing Joshua Markham Builders, please have a seat up front and state your name and your current address?
Markham Olson, 7867 Eastwood Road, Moundsville, Minnesota, 55112.
Good evening. Can I call you Mark?
Yes.
Well, thank you. The commission received your application for the PUD and CUP amendment along with your project description and plans. As is normal protocol, for the record, could you give us a little about the amendment to your project regarding the St. Clair PUD and CUP, what you want to do?
Yeah, so the Mylars were recorded when I first saw them. I took this development over from St. Clair Terrain, Jamie Jensen. So the Mylar showed a 25-foot setback, but then when I was reading the developer's agreement, it stated in this one sentence there, a 30-foot setback. Well, my houses would fall off the pads if I went to the 30-foot setback. I need every inch I can get pretty much on them buildable impervious condition pads. So that's my main reason here. They're all slab on grade. They're all LP front siding with stone. They're all in-floor heat. They all have storage above, cold storage above the garage. They're 2 master suite units. So that's the big thing, the 25-foot setback.
Okay. Just for tonight's record, did you receive a copy of the report developed by Dean Johnson of Resource Strategies Corporation dated July 27, 2022, noting your project with its findings of facts and recommendations?
Yes, I believe I did, yeah.
And do you have any questions or comments about them that you'd like to talk about tonight?
No.
Okay.
No.
I guess to clarify this or make it a little more simpler for us, if Dean could explain this, what he's asking for.
The specific requests include what Mr. Olson described accurately. The preliminary plat showed building pads that were marked on the drawing clearly at 25 feet. At the time that St. Clair Lakes was approved, there was no builder involved, so there were no building models. We couldn't distinguish between a 30-feet garage and a 20-feet living side of the home setback. So those were the standards that were put in the ordinance, but we have used the 25 feet in other situations. We also have a request for garage stalls that are slightly smaller than the city requirements by ordinance. And in some of the lots, based on the models I looked at, I wanted a clarification of what the minimum rear yard setback would be, as well as the side yard. But the side yard in the original approval was 5 feet, and we're going to maintain that. But these are very compact parcels or lots. In many instances, both the lot and the depth. There are 5 different models here which provide a variety for the different shape of the parcels themselves. So the main purpose here is to provide the clear concession for front yard for every building at 25 feet. But it also specifies the rear yard, and it would also grant a concession to the minimum garage spaces. When I spoke with Mr. Olson, maybe back in February, the compromise of the garage space I had a little trouble with because, as you may recall, last year, the homeowner association was only including street maintenance. So this is a private street, and the purpose of the association is to certainly govern many aspects of a private development like this, but it was to establish a fund for the maintenance and ultimate replacement of the street. And when Mr. Olson and I spoke, I just said, I got a lawnmower and a snowblower in my garage because I take care of that. And he goes, well, I'm going to change the homeowner association documentation where the HOA will do not only the street maintenance, it'll do street plowing, it'll do lawn irrigation, lawn mowing, and provide garbage service. And I think as Mr. Olson alluded to, he's got storage space in the attic of each garage, and that's his request to consider a compromise of the 11 by 24 foot depth to 10 and a half by 22.
Also, I just recorded the HOA docs this afternoon, and just so you know, the last developer, Mr. Jensen, didn't have any streetlights. I'm adding $28,000 worth of streetlights. That's 3. He didn't have any central water irrigation system. I since have added a central water irrigation system, which will have its own electric meter, own water meter, its own little address to it, and the HOA will pay and maintain that also. So they'll be maintaining the streets, the garbage, the driveways, the lights, irrigation system and all that. And another thing to note too is the lot sizes are 48 by 65. That's the impervious condition I can build on. My units are 62, 63, I'd say, by 40. So I know these don't have much of a backyard for the folks. So what I'm doing when I lay these out, and I've got 6 of them sold, all on the lake there, I'm taking and turning them so when the people go into their screen porch, which is built into the corner of the home, it doesn't extend out, it's built into the corner, they can go out there and not look at their neighbor. So each screen porch, let's say, will be to the left, left, left. But then I'm opening up room between the units. So instead of having 10 feet between the units, let's say, I'm gaining 8 feet here and a little bit here. I might hold the 5 here, but now I'm at 13 plus 5. I'm at 18 feet on the closest points to where they would meet. So I'm just letting you know they're getting big side yards, and I'm not using all the impervious condition up either, the buildable pad.
I think these, if I'm right, how many of these homes back up to private homes?
4.
4 of them?
Yeah.
Are they going to be moved too?
They're smaller lots, so they're the 2-bedroom lots. I'm not sure what I'm going to do between the backyard of their yard, because they each 4 lots face like this, and there's the 1 house here. So there's only 2 homes here.
Yep.
But I'm not sure what I'm going to do back there, if it's going to be some pines or a fence or what there yet. But they're a little smaller homes, so they're only a 2-bedroom home on them lots, and the garage on them ones will not be increased. So I built these in Chisago City, and the biggest complaint I had was the garage weren't deep enough. So I added 2 feet more to the front of the garage on these to get more depth for the guys' trucks. But the ones that face the other neighbors there, their backyard or side yard, let's say, them homes will have a smaller garage, still have the storage upstairs, but they're a smaller home too. They're only a 2-bedroom home because it's really, I don't have the length there. And the width is a little narrower also.
Well, thank you. Dean, do you have anything else?
I'd be happy to answer questions later.
Well, we'll open it up to the Planning Commission here. Does anybody have any questions, Mr. Olson or Dean?
This is Chris. I do have one. When he mentions the streetlights being added, does that need to be added to the document as far as for finding of the facts and that they're going to maintain the streetlights, or is that documented somewhere else?
That might be in the new HOA docs. I asked my attorney,
Okay.
who
Does it
knows
need
how to
be-
do it, and
Okay.
Don't come cheap to put it, make sure everything was in there.
Well, it was nice to see your floor plans and
Thank
the
you.
elevations and that.
Yeah.
I know the city has been wanting to see them for a while, so it was real good to see those. And it's good you've sold some.
Yeah,
That it's moving
six
forward.
of them are sold. 7, actually. 6 are sold, 1 lot hold.
Now, you made a comment that the houses wouldn't be on the pads. Are the pads poured already? They're not poured yet?
No,
Okay,
no
okay.
construction has happened
I just wanted
yet.
to make sure.
No, I just drove by today, the asphalt driveway, the first lift went in. So that's down. So I don't plan on putting the final wear or the second lift on until next year. It's best to have it, escrow the money with the city or the letter of credit, whatever, and then do it next year. It's always good to let that first wear go one winter.
Well, I think it was a nice ad for the cold storage over the garage.
People really
That's-
love that in
yeah, I'm sure
Chisago
they
City.
do.
They just, and yeah, the stairs is a pull-down aluminum stairs. It's fire rated. And the garages are finished, by the way. They're all knocked down ceiling, all painted walls. And then I put 2 shelves out there right next to where you go into the mud room, laundry room area from the garage. And then inside there's a little broom closet. Like it's big enough to hang a few coats in and stuff. But they got their bigger closet out by the front door.
And I know, Dean, you said that when this originally came in, it was at 25, and then because we didn't have any building lots or houses on the lots, that because of the ordinance, you went to 30. So there really is no problem with a 25-foot setback to the garage in my mind.
Mr. Chairman and Planning Commission members, I just want to make one clarification. The 25-foot setback is from the curb to the garage, not the property line to the garage. It's curb to the
Okay.
garage.
Bob, did you have something you want to say?
Yeah, this is Bob. Referring to the HOA, and we haven't had a chance to see the document yet, so I have just a couple questions related to that. If this project goes into receivership, what happens to the current covenants under the HOA? Who's responsible to enforce those covenants as future
Well,
projects
as
begin?
people close on the lots, they'll become vested in the HOA.
How many are on your board for the HOA?
Me. I'm 100% HOA. I'm the secretary, the treasurer, the head guy
So
right now.
if a bank takes possession of the project due to foreclosure or whatnot, not that that's going to happen, and I don't want to jinx anything,
Yep.
but things do happen. And so I'm curious as to the current
Well, they would
people
have
who live
to,
on site then, as future development occurs down the road, is the HOA in its current state going to be enforceable under the new
oh yeah.
receivership?
Oh yeah, it's fully enforceable. It's recorded now. So whoever, whether it goes into receivership or not, or whatever happens, they'll have to accept or take that HOA on. They can't just say that's gone now. It's part of it's tied to every lot in there now.
I've seen it go both ways, so I understand what you're saying, but
Well, we
can
went through
also-
it once here,
Yeah.
so we don't want to do it again.
can you tell me if the project is fully funded at this point?
The project is fully funded right now, yeah. I put cash up with Lake Elmo Bank in the amount of the 125% of the letter of credit. So it's more than fully funded,
Sure, sure.
okay?
That's good.
Yep, it is.
You can understand why I would ask that question, though, because we do have,
Absolutely. Yep. I just didn't want to go through the paperwork and the legality of getting Lake Elmo Bank off the letter of credit and then me having to refile a check with the city and the city rebate them and this and that. So we have an the city and Lake Elmo have an agreement that basically, I get the invoices, I okay them, I send them to Elizabeth and Kevin with Bull and Minks, and also to Brian at Lake Elmo Bank. Because Brian's been doing the draw requests, he knows the forms that have to be filled out for the city and for the county and whatnot, and so he fills them out. Kevin comes out, looks at it, inspects it, sees what they're wanting, and checks it off and says yes, and then gets that relayed back to Elizabeth, and then it comes up, I think, does it come up in here for vote to pay, or?
It'll come to council for reduction, a letter
Yeah.
of credit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Mark, can you tell Commissioner Behrens, so you're the developer and you own 21 lots and that's why you're the sole person in the HOA.
Yeah.
How many, when do you turn it over? Is it 75% sold or is it 100%?
It's at least 75% sold.
Yeah.
I'd like to go further than that because with what the city wants, with the architectural and the color schemes and stuff of the homes, I don't want 75% of the people now coming to me and saying, we don't like that house, I say, but me and you guys, we agree on it, the style, the colors and everything. Now we got another player in. I like having the HOA until it's at least 90%. It skims down them arguments, or not so much arguments, but concerns that might come up that
Yep,
we got to deal with enough, so,
sure.
yep.
Hi,
There,
my
you
name
can
is
see it
Barb,
better.
and I just wanted to comment, I was in property management, and I really think that's a good idea to make the HOA take care of the garbage collection, irrigation.
Yep.
Then you have a uniform appearance in the,
Yeah, I use Sue, she's a paralegal with Cedar Management, and she actually manages a townhome community in St. Francis for me right now. And she helped me with my turnover in Chisago City, which is only 11 homes. So and these guys will probably manage themselves, they won't need, but Sue is great because she's not as pricey as an attorney would be for an HOA, and she knows how to, she's got it down,
she's got all the,
Yeah. So she helps out a lot with her comments on, what should be included, what shouldn't be. And yeah. I only want one garbage truck driving down the road. I don't want to see
Exactly.
3 different ones tearing up that private road.
and you want all the lawns mowed at the same time?
Yes.
That
Yes.
sort of thing, so
Yep.
it's
Yep. Garbage cans put in the
presentable.
garbage cans put in the garage.
Exactly.
So
Any other
Anything
comments,
further?
questions to Mr. Olson? Well, hearing none, we'll open up the public hearing for the public. Anyone who has an interest in this matter and wants to present testimony as evidence on the issue, please acknowledge themselves by stating their name and address, after which you have the floor to speak. Nobody on Zoom? Having no one coming forth, we'll close the public hearing and open up for discussion by the Planning Commission.
I have no issue with it.
Bob?
Yeah, the only comment I have is the importance of communication with their surrounding neighbors. Talk to them, keep them apprised of what you're going to do and how you're going to be a good neighbor to them. That's always good policy. Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
I met the couple that is right, that we're abutting their property. I went over and met her and introduced myself to her and gave her my business card. I don't know if she does daycare or she's got a lot of little ones, but she had the little pool set up in the front yard and stuff. And so I spent a few moments talking to her, and because there was an old shed that was on my property line. So I said, sheds on the property line. She informed me that when the guys cut the trees, it was from the other property and they moved it there. So I said, you don't mind if I get rid of it, do you? She's like, no, get rid of it. So I did. I threw it in the dumpster for her. So Yeah, if she's got any concerns or anything, I gave her my card to give me a call. I have not met the other neighbor yet. I haven't seen anyone around when I've been there to introduce myself, so.
Good, sound policy, yep.
Barb, do you have anything?
I have nothing further.
Chris, you don't have anything?
Nothing.
We have nothing. I have nothing either, but I'll make a motion. I'd like to make a motion recommending this St. Clair Lakes PUD CUP amendment to the city council with the 1 through 32 findings of facts and the recommendations 1 through 20 as noted by Dean Johnson of Resource Strategies Corporation dated July 27, 2022. Does anybody have anything they want to add to that? Any discussion? Anybody want to second that?
This is Bob, I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion. Any discussion? Back to that again?
Nope.
No discussion? We'll take a vote.
Chris, aye.
Ron, aye.
Barb, aye.
Bob, aye.
Okay, Mr. Olson, it'll go up, city council see it, I think, on August 10th?
Tomorrow at 3 o'clock.
Special meeting.
Oh,
There's a special
wow,
meeting.
Wow. I guess it's August 4th. Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for your time.
Well, we're going to go to item number 8. It's discussion. Park construction, conditional use permit, parentheses, Jeff Carlson, pages 70 through 176. And enclosures A and addition pages A1 through A32. And it says, Planning Commission members, please bring your enclosure A with you to the meeting. To start off the meeting tonight, as a normal protocol, we're going to close the public hearing as we did on July 20th. So there'll be no discussion from the public tonight. It'll just be a response from Park Construction. If they'd like to respond to what was said during our open public hearing last week, or make any comments or ask any questions before we open our discussion. So it's open to you, Jeff, or whoever you have representing you. If I can call you that. Just you?
Just me. Jeff Carlson. So I did a lot of thinking after the last Planning Commission meeting, which I did not think went very well on my behalf. So I just wrote down some things I'd like to say to the Planning Commission. First off, I'd like to communicate how displeased I am and how the public hearing on July 20th went and was conducted. The questions directed at me from the staff were mostly negative in nature, and some were entirely irrelevant. For a conditional use permit application, the role of the staff is to work with the applicant to fashion conditions that will enable the proposed use. The commission made no effort to do that for my application. The statements we heard from the public were repetitive, inaccurate, and the time allowed to speak was wasteful. There were only 2 residents that have property that borders our proposed development. The houses on each of these properties are over a quarter mile away from the main work area of our business. In addition, Perry Wagman's view from his house to our development is already obstructed by a huge horse stable. Park would provide additional trees and a berm and a fence to increase the screening. Park worked with the city staff on recommendations, and this is what we came up with. The Nace property was addressed by donating a 50-foot wide strip of wooded land along the property line into a conservation easement. And additional trees will be planted as well, so they will not be able to see through into our facility. The Nace property is in close proximity to Minnesota Utilities and Excavating. In fact, the difference between our site and the Minnesota Utilities and Excavating site to the Nace property is only 200 feet. I would like to remind the city that Park's design of the property has met all the city ordinances and zoning codes. We designed the development with city recommendations to reduce any impact to the two neighbors that abut the property. The residents will not be able to see anything on the development. If in the right location on their property, they might be able to see the rooftop of our building. Last, I would bring to your attention that Lake Drive has 15 construction-related businesses in the same corridor. The comprehensive plan states the desire to develop more land compatible with the surrounding businesses. But most importantly, I'd like to speak to the positives of our development, which were not touched on at all at the last meeting. Our development would bring to the city of Columbus a tax base increase for city improvements and property tax reduction. A state-of-the-art facility that will affect the positive image and progressive growth of the city. A new business that has served the Twin Cities for over 100 years, and a commitment to responsible business practices. A highly regarded and respected business within the construction industry. We would provide employment opportunities with above average pay, with benefits, which in turn will raise the standard of living for the citizens of Columbus. A company that is committed to supporting the community and the residents within. A locally owned and operated family business that is good steward of the land, the community, and its neighbors. A company that prides itself on its image and will keep a neat, clean, and organized facility, which is limited at our current site because it's too small. Finally, though, I don't want to speak on the behalf of the Waldocks. I do know that they have invested a great deal of money in this development. They put in 137th Avenue, they're putting in turn lanes, and they've donated land to a conservation easement. A denial of this application, coupled with a moratorium, makes their property essentially unmarketable. It makes no sense for the city to reject a vital, successful business that will bring revenue and employment, and in doing so, create a circumstance in which the existing city landowner essentially cannot sell its land. Respectfully, I state these comments.
This is Craig Kepler. I'm participating remotely. I'm legal counsel for Mr. Carlson. I have a couple of comments I'd like to add, just relative to some technical aspects of the application and the proposed resolution that's been part of the package this evening. The conditional use that's specified in a zoning ordinance is a species of permitted use. The role of a permitting authority with respect to a conditional use is to work with the applicant to fashion conditions governing the use. In general, the city may not deny a conditional use outright. The use applied for here is specifically defined as a conditional use in the city's zoning ordinance. 7A 793 lists the following as a conditional use: building, trade, contractor offices, including company-owned vehicle repair, and including storage of company-owned vehicles, equipment, and materials. This is exactly what Park Construction has applied for in its conditional use permit. As I discussed in my letter, which I see as part of the record, Park Construction recognizes that the concrete recycling portion of its proposed use may be restricted by the city as a condition to approval of the CUP. As I note above, the role of this commission is to work with the applicant to fashion conditions. I've not heard anything whatsoever from this commission at all discussing restricting in some manner or maybe multiple manners the recycling portion of the use as a condition of the CUP. Rather, all I've heard from this commission, every comment has been just to deny the application outright, which Minnesota law does not allow the city to do. But that being said, Park Construction's position is that even the recycling portion of its proposed use is specifically permitted by the existing zoning ordinance. I'm aware of the recently added language to 78602. The language use is not listed as permitted, conditional, or interim uses shall be considered prohibited. That doesn't really add anything to the statute. That's always been Minnesota law. It's just a restatement in the statute of existing law that has always applied to your ordinance. So regardless of whether it was in your ordinance before or not, that's always been the law. However, here's one of the specifically listed conditional uses that's in your ordinance. Other commercial uses which, in the opinion of the city council, are of the same general character as the conditional uses in this section and which will not be obnoxious or detrimental to the commercial industrial district. Very vague, very open language, but specifically permitted use. And the only way you can interpret a vague and open-ended provision like that is by precedent that's been applied by the city. Historically and consistently, the city council has allowed concrete and asphalt recycling as a permitted use, or as a conditional use, I'm sorry, in the CI district. It's currently in active use by at least 4, maybe 5 other CI owners along Lake Drive. Therefore, the express language of this ordinance, as historically and consistently applied by the city council, concrete recycling is a specifically enumerated conditional use. That goes back to my initial point, which is the city can't deny a conditional use. It can impose conditions on a use, but it can't deny it. The city's role is limited to crafting conditions to the use. The role of the Planning Commission in this process is to work with the applicant to fashion conditions which the city will deem acceptable. In my opinion, this commission has utterly failed its role in this application. Early in the process, staff did work with this applicant, and as a result of that work, as Mr. Carlson just discussed, there's been screening designed on the south and the west and the north sides of the site, including things like earthen berms and fences and buffer strips and planting of foliage, distance, location of amenities on the site, etc. However, at the hearing, there was no comment from the commission that suggested in any way that it had considered these items, that it was considering other conditions, or that it was actually open to considering addressing this application in any way that would make the project work. It's clear from the comments by the commissioner that the only goal of the commission has been to deny this application. To that end, by the way, I'd note that at the hearing last week, or the last hearing, there were extensive comments addressed to the Planning Commission, which is an arm of the City Council. It's an advisory commission to the City Council by a sitting City Council person. It's a blatant conflict of interest, and Park Construction objects to those comments, and we'd like to note that for the record. The only basis, by the way, for the objection that we've heard has been statements by a handful of residents with residences that are not located on Lake Drive, to the effect that they don't want the use. As Mr. Carlson noted, there's actually only exactly 2 residences that are anywhere in the vicinity of this site. No residents will be within a quarter mile of the main use portion of the facility. And the plan, because of work with staff prior to the hearing, incorporates extensive screening for both of those residences. Furthermore, both of those residents have lived next to commercial industrial land, although unoccupied, for many years. If there's any impact on the value of their residences, that impact was done back when the land was zoned commercial industrial. Neither of those resident owners can hardly be surprised that somebody now wants to use the land for its intended purpose. And more to the point, Minnesota law is clear that neighborhood or community opposition is not a legally sufficient reason to deny a CUP. The reality is that the proposed use is both 100% consistent with virtually every other use along Lake Drive, both north and south of the site, It is also 100% consistent with the comprehensive plan. In contrast, the recommendation of denial is inconsistent with the comprehensive plan and essentially renders the site without a meaningful or viable commercial, industrial, or economic use. Park construction offers a significant economic benefit to the city of Columbus via employment, via taxes, via ancillary economic activity by employees and customers. Denial of the CUP renders the land essentially fallow and without economic use. More to the point, it amounts to a failure of this commission to do its job and work with the application to fashion conditions to use that render it viable, as opposed to rejecting outright. Clearly, the commission has made up its mind. My suspicion is that if we have to explore it, we'll find violations of the open meeting law, but we'll leave that for a future date. But in doing so, the commission has forces park construction in the Walducks to consider other options with respect to the city of Columbus. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Kepler. And Mr. Carlson, I'm sorry to hear that you felt that way. I don't want to get into a we say, he says, or whatever. We're just citizens of Columbus sitting up here in the Planning Commission. And due respect to Mr. Kepler, he has an opinion. And it seems like everybody has an opinion, and it'll go down the line and we'll see where it goes. I just have to ask you this question. Mr. Carlson and Mr. Kepler, did you receive that letter from Resource Strategies Corporation by Dean Johnson dated July 28th, 2022?
Yeah, I'm sure I have.
Mr. Kepler?
I don't believe I have.
Just for clarification, what the chair is referring to is the staff report and the resolution.
I saw the draft resolution.
Okay, you've seen his findings of fact and his recommendations, Mr. Kepler?
Yes.
Okay, so you understand it then? That's what you're commenting about tonight?
Part of my comments did have to do with the draft resolution. That's yes.
Okay. Well, do you have Mr. Carlson? Like I said, I'm sorry that you feel this way. It came into us as an application, and we don't usually juggle applications. Since I've been here for 4 years, we just rule on them or whatever. So, do you have any other comments you'd like to make or statements? Anybody from the Planning Commission have any comments, Mr. Carlson?
No.
Hearing none. This is a big issue here, and we have to take the advice or whatever of two people we're talking about, you, the neighbors, or whatever. But right now, what we have in front of us, and I'm going to talk to the Planning Commission here, is there anything you'd like to discuss? Did you all read the findings of facts by Dean Johnson of Resource Strategies Corporation?
Yes. Mr. Chris, yes.
Bob, did you read it too, Barb?
I did.
All right.
Yes.
The findings of facts and the additional findings and stuff like that. Is there anything else you want to discuss about this CUP other than, or make a comment about Mr. Johnson's findings? Do you have any comments?
Can I speak for a second?
Sure.
The letter of Mr. Johnson's findings was never sent to me. I saw it. I did read it. It was in the agenda. That's where I saw it. But I'd never received it.
This is Craig Kepler. I saw it in the agenda as well. I did not receive a copy of it sent to me. it's essentially a rehash of the prior report by the same gentleman with the addition of a few new items at the end, and it devotes quite a bit of time, I'm presuming at the direction of the Planning Commission, to the concept of harmonious. I believe it misinterprets that concept. This is a commercial industrial property. It's next to two residential properties. Harmonious means a commercial industrial use next to two residential properties. It means screening. The zoning ordinance specifically addresses screening. The applicant worked with staff to design screening. If staff or the commission thought more screening was necessary, it's incumbent upon staff and the applicant and the commission to communicate that to the applicant so the applicant can work more screening in. Again, harmonious means harmonious in the context of a commercial industrial property next to two residential properties. It doesn't mean deny a specifically enumerated commercial use in the zoning ordinance. The city simply doesn't have discretion to do that. Period.
Chris?
Yes, I would just like maybe some legal representation or legal advice, or not even advice, interpretation of what we have the right to do and what harmonious means, and just kind of react to Mr. Kepler's, did I say his name right, comments.
Absolutely. So I think it's helpful to refer back to the staff report for this particular project and to talk about what the findings of your professional planning staff have been. First and foremost, the opinion of planning staff has been that crushing and backhauling are not permitted uses within the district. And you're presented with the unique situation before you this evening that while the city has an obligation to review a complete application received in advance of a moratorium on a district, there is no right that we have found in the case law that reflects a right to amend mid-review to remove crushing and backhauling as uses. And so you view the application as a whole. So I think that's the starting point. I think the secondary point for you to consider is that, well, Mr. Kepler has referred to sort of the underlying state law that uses that are not listed are automatically prohibited. That's not how the past council or the past planning commissions potentially have reviewed your code. In fact, that they have utilized that large catch-all provision as a mechanism to approve more intense uses in this district. Now, in the interim, this planning commission has undertaken a significant review of its zoning ordinance and made amendments to that zoning ordinance just this past year. And those amendments were designed to narrow the scope of the language of your ordinance and to narrow the scope of the flexibility with regard to the ordinance. And the provision, the sort of catch-all provision that was previously cited and that was previously used to approve a number of uses in this district no longer is in your zoning ordinance. So that's an important consideration. And I think it is also sort of reflective that the uses that are consistent with what Park has applied for were approved under a different zoning ordinance, frankly. And secondly, you know, when we talk about the impact or the desire for this use and restricting the ability for companies like Park to come in, there were 4 or 5 potential applications that were impacted by the moratorium at the time that it was adopted. And so because you have these sort of overarching provisions, you're under sort of a different, number one, a different zoning ordinance than previously existed. And number 2, have other considerations, including, especially in light of the moratorium, that there, you know, is not a right to amend the application mid-review to remove the backhauling and crushing operations. And I would also encourage, you know, questions that you have in terms of the use, in terms of anything that Mr. Kepler has raised, to talk with Mr. Johnson and your professional planning staff about, to seek further guidance on sort of purpose, intent of the code and definitions along the way.
This is Chris again. I believe Mr. Kepler is referring to 7A 793, which really is not in existence anymore. Is that correct? It's 7A 743 is what our code is. And one of the items he referred to was item Q, which in the old, Dean, can you kind of respond to some of that? Q went away, correct? Which was, I think I got it
It's
here.
on your page 61.
Okay, other commercial uses, which in the opinion of the city council are the same general character as the conditional uses in section 7A 793, and which will not be obnoxious or detrimental to the commercial industrial district. That has been removed from our new ordinance dated?
Yes.
Okay. So that part doesn't apply anymore in this argument. I would like to make one comment, and I think I speak for all the commissioners up here. And again, I apologize if you felt that way. I know myself and I know the other commissioners try to do their due diligence. And the public hearing lets the residents speak, and we listen to that. But that's not what we base our decision on, because that's not our role, and we all understand that. Our role is to look at the ordinances and the comp plan, and then weigh that out on what we see. And then from our recommendation, it goes to the city council, and they are the policymakers who will make the final decision. I think we've all done what we could with our due diligence. And, you know, if you felt that it was, the questions were negative and we didn't look at the positive, I can speak for myself, because when I read our ordinances and that, I see the word harmonious, and your attorney can define it in his way, and that's definitely his opinion. I look at it from the area and the impact that it has in the area. And that's what I base it on, is the ordinances and the comp plan. And the questions directed were questions that I felt, and I'm not speaking for the others, felt needed to be addressed, because that tells more of a story of what's really going on that property, and we need to see and hear that. I made the comment through the public hearing when we were discussing it and asking questions that from our conversation, it sounded like nothing was going to go on that site other than crushing, because of all the trucks are going to be gone and so on and so forth. But I'm getting off track here. What I'm trying to say is nothing was intended to be negative. And I feel my role as a planning commissioner is to look at the ordinances and the comp plan and to see how it fits. And in my opinion, with the questions I asked, I'm trying to form that, I'm trying to make that decision. And I know I have spent a lot of time driving in that area, driving down the road, looking how close this property is to the other residences. There is other property there, and I know there was the comment made in the documentation from your attorney that that property is limited to development. And I don't know that, and I don't think he knows that either. There's, I think, 120 acres back there that's zoned residential that could possibly be developed back there. So that's a future item that we need to take into account. And, you know, I've seen property change from wetland to dry land because of numerous droughts year after year after year. So properties do change, and what you look at being one way one year can change. Plus, there's always wetland credits and delineation and other items that can play a part into making property developable. So those things all have to be taken into account, and that's what I look at. So I'm sorry that you felt it was negative. I know my role here has been to look at the ordinances and the comp plan, and that's been the extent of it. Again, I apologize if you felt that way. I think your company does great work, and
Recording in progress.
nothing intentional towards you or your company. It really is. Does that fit in that area? And in my opinion, I looked at it, and the residential properties play a part in my decision. I do not see it as being harmonious. I do not see it as just a contractor shop. I see it as heavy industrial equipment.
Can I respond to you real quick?
Well, you don't want to really get into a,
Yeah, a back
Yeah,
and
all right.
forth.
but
I really wanted to apologize that you felt that way. And the other thing I wanted to say is, I take this role serious, and I feel I am doing my job.
Well,
A point of clarity, I'm sorry. Are we in discussion amongst the commissioners here?
well,
I
think we are.
changed that, and I apologize.
Well, I think we don't want to get into a
Yes.
discussion here. I don't think we're going to settle much
No.
back and forth here. And that's where I'm coming from, Bob. And we can sit and apologize all day to you
Yeah,
or whatever. But we did a lot of effort. We went to your place and sat there and watched it, and there's a lot of positive things about it. But like I said, reading your application to me was more about crushing and backhauling than it was parking. Just my analysis of your application. And
Ron, can I just make one comment on that? And it has nothing to do with the decision on this. It just might help you in the future. You were confused about my application. I think anyone would be, when they looked at the 541 pages that were in there, redundant. There was 3 different plan sets, 3 different three of the same geotechnical reports, and 3 or 4 different narratives because we kept improving them and adjusting them. I don't know why they have to be in there. Maybe they have to be by city code, but I don't know which one you pulled, but there was several different narratives we had in there.
like I said, Jeff, we could go back and forth. There's a lot of discrepancies I seen. I asked you about 12 trucks, 25 trucks, whatever. And I'm not putting it down. It's just that it was a little confusing. On one page it said this and one said that. And maybe that's the problem of having such a big application. I don't know. It was a monster when we.
But it was repetitive in the
Right.
agenda,
You're right. You're right.
and it didn't need to be.
Like one page, something came up, but like I said, I don't want to get into a discussion here. I don't think
understand.
we're going
I
to
got
get
it.
anywhere, and I really hope the best for your company and stuff, but we got to move on. So it's a discussion. Do you have anything you'd like to discuss amongst ourselves here? I just brought up Dean's
Yeah.
report, which I should ask Elizabeth or.
Mr. Chair, we need to pause the meeting. We have lost Mr. Kepler on Zoom and have lost the rest of our Zoom participants. So may I ask the commission to take a brief recess for us to address our technological issues?
Let's take a break. It's for what, 10 minutes?
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I think we are ready to go at your
Okay.
at your
Thank you,
call,
Megan.
Mr. Chair.
We're going to start up the meeting again. We got kind of a little bogged down there a minute ago, but Mr. Kepler, are you still on?
Yes, I'm still here.
Okay. I'm just going to ask you or Mr. Carlson if you have anything else you'd like to say. I did bring this up a minute ago about Dean Johnson's report, and there was a little discussion about not getting it or whatever, and I just want to kind of settle that issue right now. You have read it? Oh, there we go again.
No.
It must be
you didn't.
CenturyLink.
You didn't lose it. You didn't lose it. I pressed the wrong button. You're good. Keep going.
Oh, are we good?
Yes. Right.
We're good?
Yep, you're good.
Craig, you still there? Mr. Kepler?
There he is.
Whoops. Yes, I'm still here.
Okay.
And yes, I have read it.
Okay, and Jeff Carlson, Mr. Kepler is your representative or your attorney, so you've either seen it or,
I saw it on your website.
okay, all right, thank you. All right, and we're going to go back to the discussion, and during our discussions, sometimes among the commissioners, we'll even look to Dean and ask if he has any comments or something, or issues, or if he sees something that we should know about. We have read your report, Dean, and gone through it, and your recommendations. And I was wondering, through these conversations that we've been having, is there anything you'd like to add? Or?
I don't,
I don't know what's going on. I don't know.
Mr. Chair, I apologize. It appears as though we have once again lost our connection to our Zoom meeting.
I don't know if too many people are on the, I'm not sure why we keep, you know what I mean? We're not losing the Zoom meeting. We are losing this connection to the Zoom meeting. They're all in the cloud. They're still on the meeting, and they're having the meeting all by themselves. So I didn't lose the Zoom meeting.
Well, so from a practical perspective, perhaps we can request that all attendees log off of any of the city internet services that they are utilizing at this point in time, so that we can utilize our greatest broadband capacity to ensure that our meeting stays up and running here within our chambers. Another excellent reminder of why broadband funding is so important for cities in Minnesota.
So are we taking a break again? Or are we just
Yes,
pause?
Mr. Chair. We are taking a moment to see if we can get our recording going again here in chambers.
Yeah, Elizabeth, if you want, I can connect my, yeah, if it's just your connection, if you want, I can connect my computer so that at least if it's coming in and out, I'll just face it that way.
No, it's everyone's it's everyone's connection. There's just, you know what I mean? There's,
Okay.
it's not the computer. The computer's working just fine. It's the connectivity, the bandwidth that the room's getting. It's intermittent, so it's dropping us. Basically, it's dropping us. Everyone else is on. See, if you look around, it's trying to connect. It just doesn't have enough. I don't know how else, but bandwidth to you know what I mean, to connect up.
If anybody has good reception, we can use somebody's hotspot. I don't get cell phone reception here, so I can't. But
Yeah, we have a great connection. It's just not, just not. Which is why we were, upgrading, but.
Those computers have senior moments too. You know?
My phone's not down, it's not the internet. Now it won't even connect to Zoom. The computer. My other computer won't either. It wasn't on.
Mr. Chair, it appears that it's going to be more than just a short moment. And so with that in mind and giving City Administrator Mersko an opportunity to try to repair this, may I ask this Planning Commission to go into an official recess for a period of 10 minutes, and then we'll come back with an update.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you so much.
Okay, we're back on board, right? All right. Well, we're going to move this thing along. I'll just ask, I think I asked you, Mr. Kepler, and Jeff, if you have any other comments or questions you want to ask before we get moving here. We're going to kind of close it and just discuss it here and go on. So, Mr. Kepler?
I do not.
You do not? No. No? Nothing? Okay, as I brought up in the beginning here to everybody, we can go through this, you know, or whatever, but you have any comments you want to say? And I read the staff report, and I'm sure you all have. Did we just want to go through this, or do you want to just give our opinions right now, or anybody disagree with what our staff is saying or the recommendations? Otherwise, we'll just make a motion and move on here.
Well, this is Bob. My suggestion is that we don't go through the narrative completely. There's 80-some findings of fact, and I think Mr. Johnson did a good job of collecting all the information, and I agree with Commissioner King when she says that we take great pride in our ability to do due diligence and take the information that is in front of us and present it to us and make recommendations up or down to the City Council. That's our job. And so I think this is a very comprehensive report, and I don't have any discussion related to anything on that report from Mr. Johnson from Resource Strategies Corporation. In fact, I think he did a good job.
Chris, you have anything?
No, I agree 100%. You did a very good job of putting it together, and I agree with it.
Barb?
Well, I agree also. We're just citizens, and we're, you know, following the ordinances, following the comp plans. We all spent many, many hours discussing the comp plan and the ordinances and our decisions, and I think they were good decisions, and I think our planner did an excellent job of presenting our thoughts.
Thank you. I have nothing else to add to it either, but I would like to say that the recommendation by the staff report based on the findings of facts was a denial of the CUP. Would someone like to make a motion to recommend denial of the application? And remember, we're voting on the application. That's all we're voting on, correct? We're not adding any recommendations or nothing. So would anybody like to make that motion, or should I make the motion? I'll make the motion to recommend to the City Council denial of the application of the CUP from Park Construction per the findings of facts from Resource Strategies Corporation, report by Dean Johnson, July 28th, 2022. Findings of facts 1 through, I believe it's 88. Nice to put my glasses on. 89, I'm sorry,
90.
90.
90? Oh, yep, 90. And the recommendations of denial by the staff. Anyone like to second that?
This is Barb. I'll second that.
Is there any discussion, any comments, any questions?
No.
Hearing none, we'll take a vote, starting with Chris.
Chris, aye.
Ron, aye.
Barb, aye.
Bob, aye.
The motion's been denied, the denial. The motion will be sent to the city council at their next meeting. I'd like to make another motion to approve the draft resolution recommending denial of the application for the CUP. And that's on page 66. And that's resolution number, and I guess we have to have a number, correct, Elizabeth? On a draft, or?
The number will be assigned after the meeting.
Well, it'll be assigned after the meeting?
Yep, I believe, and depending upon the number of resolutions that have been issued by the Planning Commission this year, absolutely.
Okay.
Administrator Mersko will assign the resolution number after the meeting.
Okay. All right, so make a motion to approve the draft resolution recommending denial of the application of CUP. That's page 66 to 67 to 69. Anybody like to second that?
This is Chris, I'll second it.
Any discussion? Any questions?
Nope.
Hearing none. Chris, you would like to vote?
Chris, aye.
Ron, aye.
Barb, aye.
Bob, aye.
We're going to go on to the next item. Thank you for coming. We appreciate it. Oh, I lost my agenda deal.
Here.
Okay, we're going on to item number 9, request, public open forum. Is there anybody who'd like to make a comment about on and off computer we have tonight?
That's a good idea.
Next, item number 10, nobody's coming up. Item number 10, the Planning Commissioner's report. Chris, you have anything?
I don't, I would like to say, Ella, you did a wonderful job on your minutes.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Bob, do you have anything?
Nothing further at this time.
And Barb?
I have nothing.
I have nothing either. We got information, item number 10 on the agenda, Associated Planners Report. Frank?
Just very briefly, I wanted to touch on, I know there was some issue with billboards and compliance. I have been working on that. I know since I started working on it, some of the issues, there has been some progress on their construction, but I'll try and have a little bit more detail for next meeting as far as that goes.
Oh, thank you, Frank. Frank, I got a question for you, but I could probably pass it off on Elizabeth here. So Love's Travel Plaza was supposed to open August 1st, and I was sitting there waiting. And
For a hearty burger, huh?
I couldn't get that pizza.
I went and did a landscape review with our building inspection team at Minspect, and when I was there, I asked the landscape team if they knew the opening date, and they didn't seem to know, so they said it could be tomorrow, it could be a month, so that's all I know.
I think the new projection is August 18th.
18th, okay.
18th.
I still can't hear him.
18th.
18th?
18th.
Ron is having a hard time
I
hearing.
just can't hear you.
inside.
We just installed the new clouds. There should be not any reason you can't hear me. August 18th.
Now I can hear you. Maybe it's the receiver over here.
You know, I think I'm going to have to convince the council to upgrade that IT budget.
I don't see on this your report, Elizabeth. Usually you're on here, but you're not on tonight. So, Item number 12 is a reminder, attendance, the city council meeting next week on August 10th, 2022. Bob, you going to make it?
Thank you very much.
I didn't write this. I'll be there to back you up, out in the parking lot.
Support.
And item number 13 is a motion to adjourn. Anybody like to make that motion?
This is Bob, so moved.
This is Chris, second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a vote. Chris?
Chris, aye.
Ron, aye.
Barb, aye.
Bob, aye.
The meeting is hereby adjourned at 8:07, right?